Hi everybody, welcome to the dungeon. Today what we're going to be focusing on is those scrolling lines that you see people making on their beads and you're like, really? And that's kind of how I felt when I first saw that and first started using stringers. One of the very first things that I wanted to get down was those scrolling lines, just an S curve. And I got to the point where I could draw my signature with the stringer. And I thought that was pretty cool. I did that once and then I haven't really done any work like that since. Things tend to stick with you, kind of like riding a bicycle. This is a great video to watch to kind of see how to get it going and how to start it. A lot of it depends on the thickness of your stringer. I'm going to make some stringers. I'm going to make a whole bunch because you know how they tend to crack right in your hand. I'm going to make a bigger bead in order to have more surface space to work on. So once again, another reason why I like to work a little larger. And on that note, you guys, thanks for watching. I appreciate all of you. You're the best. And we'll see you next time in the dungeon. All right, everybody, here we go. The first thing I'm going to be doing here is making a few stringers with the white. This is going to be a black base with the white stringers. And I want to be able to pull these stringers fairly thin. The thinner you can work your stringer, and it does take practice, the more control you're going to have with all stringer work. And I try to work as thin as I can, but sometimes I think I tend to work with a really big flame, so it doesn't work out so well for me. Oh, here's the wide crunch. Here's our guest star. This is the Wide Crunch by Catwalk Tools, and I'm just going to put it in my bead holder. It's a really beautiful shape, just curved on both sides, and it can be as long as you need it to be. Make sure it's clean, and do notice that there is a registration line right there too. All right, so let's put that to the side for now and begin this bead. So we're going to work this black glass as long as I want the bead wide or tall in this aspect. And I know that the taller I go, the better. And even though I get to a certain length, it'll get slightly longer because after you start heating things up and really melting stuff down, the glass will tend to pull in on itself, at least to the point where it's actually touching the mandrel. So I'm just going to add as much black glass here as I can for my base color. I'll add a little bit on both edges. And I'm just trying to kind of get a mock-up shape, basically, of the bead I'm going for. And you can do this in a way that doesn't trap any air bubbles. You know, you're either going to overlap the glass or you're going to not overlap the glass and just wrap it around. And here's my shape, but obviously it doesn't have those edges that I'm looking for. So I have to add more glass on the edges to get the straight edges to come back, because that's going to be really important for the shape of this. Now I'm just going to check the width. I know it's off center, but I'm going to check that in the bead press just to make sure it's not too big. And now I'm going to spend a little bit of time refining and perfecting my shape before I use the press. That's really important. You'll refine it a little bit more after you use the press, but you want to get the best shape that you can. And I usually finish right in the center. Okay, let's heat this thing up. Not all the way, just heat it up as much as you can, but you're not soupy hot. lay it in the press, and then gently press down. The feeling of pressing glass is so cool, you guys. Now what I need to do is do a little bit of fire polishing and pulling up of these edges, which is super important, again, for the shape of this bead. And this will help us to have more nice cornered edges. And I'll go ahead and flatten the edges down, the longer edges here real quick, just to get what I'm looking for. And once everything is nice and polished and looks good, I'll press it one more time, give it a quick polish, and we're ready to go. So here's what this is what the whole game is about. Heat the glass, touch it to where you need to, and always keep your flame as close to the stringer as you can until it starts to melt. And at that point, that's where you want to be when you're actually moving the stringer. Notice I'm moving the whole bead, and the stringer is trying to stay exactly in the same spot in the torch the whole time. So what you're doing is it's like you're moving the bead to the pattern that you're trying to create. These little curls here are very easy to do. It's just drawing out a line and putting a curl on the end. That's what this whole bead is about. It's very simple. We're not going to get too involved just yet. Just start by learning how to make a curly cue off of a straight line or a curved line or any line or not even that. Just start with this simple application here, this simple exercise, I guess I would say. And this is a good exercise to learn how to do these curly cues. And once you've learned how to do that, you can work it smaller and smaller when it comes to your stringers. So I just find a spot and do my little curls. You don't have to move the whole bead into a circle. When you do the curl, everything can happen at once because your flame is right there. It's very quick. And now I'm just looking for other areas to stick my stringer to and curl. I like to do the bigger, swoopier things first and then get down into the smaller details. There we go. We just stick and just give it even that one is just a gentle curve. It doesn't have to be like like a perfect wall print pattern of spiraling, deliciousness. Okay. It can be your own. This is all you. This is all you. You're not anybody else but yourself when you make your work. So as this may not be the perfect bead of scrolling lines, I think it looks pretty good, especially if it's just a practice bead. So now at this point, just heat it in until it's almost melted in, but you're not losing the shape of the bead itself. So it's going to have a little texture to it. And now I'll make my torch very small and add a whole bunch of little dots here and there so the eye isn't just like looking at all these moving lines. It gives your eyes somewhere to rest. So notice that I have my torch very small. This is the kind of torch that you want when you're working with very tiny stringers. I just tend to get, a little crazy, and I like working with a bigger flame. I think I'm just impatient. So once we're done adding our dots, we're going to give it a full reheat so nothing pops off. I do hope you try this technique, you guys, just for the simple, exercise of working with stringers that aren't just straight lines. All right, we're all done here. Thanks for watching, you guys. See you next time.